You see the paragraph that begins, Bradsher stated that he was never told that employees needed written proof of the employee's hours. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that when we were talking for that hour and 20 minutes in my office, that you actually told me that since you worked out in the field, that you had some timesheets that you used for your employment?
Yes, sir.
All right. And as you described that, don't you recall a discussion with us about Beacon being the digital timesheet? That is how an employee in the judicial branch reports the work.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in context, this paragraph just reads, Bradsher stated he was never told employees needed written proof of the employee's hours. Wasn't that in response to you saying, was there any written timesheets that would be used? And I explained that we used Beacon, the digital system, and then you shared with me what you do. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I said, we do not do that in that office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in terms of it reading that I was never told employees needed written proof, that's kind of a paraphrase from that conversation. Would you agree with that?
It is.
All right. And then next, can you explain at all this paraphrase of Bradsher stated that his employees knew to question another employee that they approve within the Beacon system about their time? Do you have a memory or context of how that was written down?
Mr. Bradsher, all I can tell you is that is a paraphrasing of the information that you provided to me.
Do you even know what it meant to you at the time when that was said about employees knew to question another employee?
I just wanted to, I believe what I did was asked you whether your employees knew to question another employee about their time or whether they just write down and accept whatever the employee tells them.
Okay, so could it be that it was whoever is assigned to approve Beacon, you were asking me, did they question the time that was entered? Is that a
Yes, sir.
fair context?
Yeah.
Okay. And didn't I share with you that Gail Pede, as the AA, approved some employees and Jay Stoltz approved Cindy Blitzer?
I believe you did.
Okay. So there's no feeling on your part that I was not truthful with you about that. Is that right?
Sorry, there's no
There was no feeling I was not
Feeling,
truthful
no.
to you about that. Is that right?
No.
In fact, the next paragraph goes, Bradsher stated that he assigned Stoltz to approve Cindy Blitzer's time in Beacon because Caswell County was closer to Cindy Blitzer's work in Rockingham County, and Stoltz works the other conflict cases that they encounter. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Bradsher stated that he knew that Cindy Blitzer, what Cindy Blitzer had done for Bradsher, but he did not know what she may have done for Stoltz. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Other than the special projects that I mentioned to you, did I represent to you that she had done any other work for me other than the Shockley case?
You did talk about her transferring some files, some odd things like that. The overall impression you gave me was that she was working and that you would provide me with a list of activity that could document her work.
All right. Where in here did I say that? I need to look at that.
Well, I would have probably memorialized that on the last page when I say that you would attempt to gather together any documentation of work or projects that Cindy Blitzer did at your direction.
Okay. With regards to those special projects, you jog my memory. Isn't it true that at that point I said to you that, okay, that I would contact her to gather that information from her?
You very well may have.
And don't you recall you telling me I do not want you to talk to her directly?
I don't recall telling you that in those words. I very well may have asked you not to contact Cindy or Craig, to let me do it on my own to inform them of the investigation.
Okay, I need you to be accurate. Did you ever tell me not to contact Craig Blitzer?
Well, my very next act was going to be to call Craig Blitzer, so I'm almost 100% sure I would have told you not to talk with either of them.
Let me ask you this. Do you recall ever telling me not to contact Craig Blitzer?
I don't specifically recall telling you that.
But as I talked about the special project issue and your desire to get paperwork of what she was doing on that, you do recall that I said that I wanted to contact her to get that paperwork, don't you?
I don't really recall that either. I'm sorry.
Do you recall telling me not to contact her directly?
I don't recall that either, but I will give you that
Okay.
I very well may have said not to contact Craig Blitzer and Cindy because I didn't want to taint any additional interviews that would be done with them.
All right, what is the purpose of the policy that you're supposed to tell the elected official that they are the index subject of an investigation?
Well, it is an unwritten policy. It's something that my supervisor just wanted me to do, to talk with Mr. Bradsher and Mr. Blitzer, schedule the interviews through them so that we weren't disruptive. The ADAs, they still have to run court, and we didn't want to disrupt that process.
And I already asked you pretty directly about you not recalling saying that to me, but you think you would have. Is that fair?
I'm almost certain I would have, because that was my purpose in going to you.
I want to go to the next set. Do you actually recall telling me that Jay Stoltz was an index subject in this investigation?
I don't specifically recall telling you that, but like I said, I would expect I would have had that conversation with you.
All right. When you got direction from Judge Crosswhite, is there something in writing that sets out the parameters of the investigation?
I believe so, yes.
So prior to coming and meeting with me September 6th, you would have had something in writing about that scope. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You would agree that you
Wait a minute, excuse me. Ask me that one more time.
You would have had something in writing from Judge Crosswhite with regards to the
Yes,
scope
yes,
of the
sir. We would have
investigation.
had it by then.
That is all,
With regards to, he interrupted you.
the investigation. All right. So would you agree that you also did not tell me that Judge Crosswhite had authorized some investigation?
I apologize. Say that one more time.
All right. Isn't it true that you did not tell me that Judge Crosswhite had authorized an investigation?
I don't recall whether I told you Judge Crosswhite authorized the investigation.
Do you think that you have documented any of that in your notes?
I don't think I would have documented that, no.
All right.
If you can point me to my notes that might refresh my memory, that I'm willing to look at it.
All right. Now back to the flow of the statement. We had gone through started with Tyler Henderson, and then you went to the wife transfer. Can you look at top of page 4? You talk about that I said to you that I had called the State Ethics Commission, researched the Ethics Act. Do you see that part?
Yes, sir.
And that there was a decision to transfer the employees. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And that Cindy Blitzer was transferred to Bradsher's office and Pam Bradsher was transferred to the Rockingham office. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then Bradsher noted that his wife Pam Bradsher only stayed at the Rockingham County office through August 2015. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nowhere in that paragraph does it talk about AOC approving the transfer, right?
No, sir. It does not say that in that paragraph.
So when it appeared on the page before, do you believe that just got mixed up and put into that digital discovery plan about AOC approving?
I don't exactly understand your question.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we were clear, as you've had the chance to look at it, isn't it true that I never said AOC approved the transfer with regards to Tyler Henderson and Cindy Blitzer? That shared employee plan.
What I got from you in your interview was that the transfer was approved. At some point, Tyler Henderson took your wife's position.
Okay. All right. I think we're almost there. The next paragraph, Bradsher stated that he asked the North Carolina State Ethics for opinion on the situation prior to the transfers. Is that,
Where are you at?
I'm sorry, second paragraph, top of page 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The commission told Bradsher that they could not give him an opinion as he was an elected official. Now, you've actually looked at that documentation now. That's not an accurate statement. Do you accept that?
I would have to review the Ethics Commission letter, but really all that is just when I met with you, that's what I got from you. And
So do you actually remember me saying that the Ethics Commission issued an opinion that said they could not give an opinion because I was an elected official?
that's what I recalled.
Isn't it true that what I related to you was that judicial officials could not get an advisory opinion from State Ethics Commission based on the way the statute was worded?
Mr. Bradsher, all I can tell you is that's what I got from you that day, and that's what I noted. And
Would you at least agree that I talked in detail to you about the sequence of events? You've been in this trial this
you
week.
did. You did.
Okay. You've seen the evidence that's come out in the trial. Would you at least agree that I relayed that to you in the interview about the steps we took to go to state ethics, ask for the opinion, and then getting the letter of guidance?
While I don't independently remember that from your interview, I don't doubt that you did because we talked about it a lot.
And then in your narrative, after talking about that, and that I would get you correspondence from the commission, which I did, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
You then go to, Bradsher stated that he and Craig Blitzer originally met to discuss the issue. They tried to find a way to have the spouses supervised by a non-family member. Do you think that is written down somewhere in your notes?
I don't know. I'd have to review my notes.
And then you said ultimately they decided to follow the federal SALSA model, okay? Do you recall that towards the end of the interview, you were doing follow-up questions about this sharing arrangement between two districts? You remember at least generally asking about that?
Mr. Bradsher, I don't really remember the specifics of the interview.
Are you familiar with the federal SALSA program, SAUSA?
I'm actually not.
Okay. So is it possible that that is wrong in the statement that it's following the SALSA model?
Mr. Bradsher, all I can tell you is that's what I got from you at that time in the interview.
All right. Isn't it true, we did talk about the federal SALSA program where an assistant DA state prosecutor is shared with a federal prosecutor's office, and they spend some time working in the federal prosecution office and some time working with the state. Isn't that right? You're familiar with that, aren't you?
In very loosely, yes.
And it's a state employee paid as an ADA on state salary, but also assigned in part to a federal prosecution system. Isn't that right?
Mr. Bradsher, I'm not terribly familiar with that program.
Okay. Do you at least recall that as we talked about the shared employee program, I gave you that as an example of the reason why we were doing the shared employee? It was similar to that, a sharing of resources.
It makes sense, yes, sir.
Okay. And then after you put federal SALSA model, do you see where you say Bradsher explained that this model utilizes state ADAs who work in the federal system?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you see, Bradsher stated that one of the reasons that they made this move was due to conflict cases. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And based on your investigation, you did determine that Cindy Blitzer did do conflict cases, didn't she?
Up until the spring of 2016, it appeared she did.
All right. And then in the next paragraph, isn't it true that you go back to the Tyler Henderson employment? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you would agree that on page 3 in the narrative, you've already talked about that at some point, and then say AOC approved the arrangement.
Yes, sir.
And then after we've talked about the wives and the Ethics Commission and this SALSA example, you go back to Bradsher stated that as part of this agreement, Tyler Henderson is employed by Rockingham County District Attorney's Office but works in the Person County District Attorney's Office. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And on that first day when we met, Henderson has been working and developing a paperless discovery system to be employed in Person and Caswell counties. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I told you that. You absolutely remember that, don't you? That I told you that on the 6th of September?
You definitely talked about that. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, isn't it true that also said Bradsher stated that is one example of a project that he's been working on? Bradsher stated that Tyler has a supervisor in Rockingham County that would approve his time in the Beacon system, and Bradsher stated that he did not know who that would be, but Bradsher noted that Cindy Blitzer's time was approved by Jay Stoltz. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before I get into page 5, as you've had time to think about it, did you ever interview Elisa Black?
No, sir. I don't believe we actually did get to her interview.
All right. So to clear up from what you said on direct, this list of names of people, Holly McAdams, Jay Stoltz, Hugh Williford, Elisa Black, Gail Pete, and Debbie Hallbrook, it is your recollection now that you never interviewed Elisa Black. Is that right?
That is correct. I believe there were 1 or 2 people that we actually did have on the lead sheet, either conflict, scheduling conflicts, I don't know. At some point, there were 1 or 2 that we did not get to.
I want to follow up with that. Agent Whitley, as you come into an investigative case and you're writing down notes from an interview, trying to put it all together, and you get a name or names of witnesses that could potentially reveal evidence to be either exculpatory or inculpatory. Is there an SBI policy that says, I have to go interview that person so that I can make sure I get the whole truth?
There is a policy that if there is exculpatory information, it has to be included in the case file. Exculpatory information would be something that would exonerate or show a defendant's innocence. Lacking receiving the information from some other party, you would have to follow up on a lead like that.
All right. So then are you saying that it's okay not to go interview a witness that's listed from an interview on the issue of whether or not Cindy Blitzer was working?
So I don't specifically recall why I did not interview her, but one of the possible reasons could have been that by the time we got around to the point we actually could get her for the interview, we received information that we had originally been searching for through that interviewee, and we did receive information from the blitzers that confirmed that Cindy was not working.
So then, upon that information, a witness that the defendant has given you as a possible evidence to indicate that she's working, it's okay to just say, I'm not going to interview that person. Is that what you're saying? Per SBI policy, not personal opinion.
No, she should have been interviewed, and that's an oversight. Whether that is actually something that would be exculpatory is a decision that would have to be made.
So before I finish this, while we're on the interview issue, you said to the prosecutor, Tyler Henderson refused to be interviewed. Is that right?
I'm not sure I said it like that, no.
Okay. How would you characterize it?
I think I said he did not ultimately submit himself for an interview.
Okay. Well, it is true that he was sitting there next to Holly McAdams' office. Do you recall seeing him in the office?
That is true.
Okay. And you've explained to the prosecutor that you wouldn't have necessarily interviewed him right then because he was not on the list as someone who had possibly worked with Cindy Blitzer. Is that right?
That's true.
But although it is not in the written statement, do you recall me talking to you about the Shockley file, for example?
Yes, sir.
All right? And I think you said that on direct. Do you recall talking to me about Cindy Blitzer working on the Shockley file?
Yes, sir.
All right? Do you recall Tyler Henderson being involved with the Shockley file?
Yes, sir.
And whether or not you recall the shared employee language, you at least knew the relationship between the sharing between Rockingham and 9A with regards to Tyler Henderson and Cindy Blitzer, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you elected not to interview Tyler that day, is that right?
That is correct.
And isn't it true, in terms of submitting himself to interview, that October, November, December, January, there was never any attempt by the SBI to interview and get information from Tyler Henderson, was there?
That is true.
Also, you just indicated that one of the reasons why you wouldn't interview Elisa Black was because you got other information that made that person perhaps not necessary. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you indicated, for example, you got statements from Cindy and Craig Blitzer. Isn't that right?
Among others.
But they did not submit to interview until May of 2017. Isn't that right?
That is true.
So with regards to Elisa Black and the information that she could have provided, isn't it true the SBI went September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May? It wasn't a decision, we're not going to go talk to Elisa because we've got these Blitzer interviews. It was some other reason, wasn't it? Perhaps an oversight?
Perhaps an oversight.
Okay.
I don't know. I would have to look back through the case file.
All right. Now back to Tyler. As you go into February and the Wake County DA's office adopts the case, you still have not gone to get information from Tyler, is that right?
That is correct.
And then a month later, isn't it true that you do search warrants on Tyler Henderson's law school records, financial aid, GI Bill, all these records with North Carolina Central University School of Law? Is that right?
I believe that we did a court order for those things.
Okay. Sometime in March of 2017, isn't that right?
That's around the right date.
And isn't it true that from your review of the file, Tyler Henderson is an Iraqi War veteran, Marine Corps veteran?
I don't recall that from the file, but
Well, do you recall reviewing his law school records and financial aid records and GI Bill records?
I recall receiving them, and I did look through them.
And isn't it true that it was only after y'all had done this court order and got these documents that you then went to talk to Tyler Henderson and say, we want to interview you?
That is correct.
And when you went, isn't it true that he expressed to you
Objection.
its effect on the hearer, Your Honor?
Effect on the hearer. Well, I'll allow you to ask him what he did in response to that interview rather than what was said at that interview.
Yes, Your Honor. When you went to speak to Tyler Henderson, there was things said by you and by Tyler Henderson, is that right?
I spoke with him, yes.
And you got a response from him, didn't you?
Yes.
And you got a why from him, didn't you?
Objection. Sustained.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you then take what was said in that interaction with Mr. Henderson and write it down and put it in a written report in discovery?
I believe that that information was probably included in the synopsis, but I don't recall whether we did a separate report for that.
Is that per SBI policy, if you go to interview someone and there is some dialogue explaining why the person refuses to be interviewed, shouldn't that be documented per SBI policy?
That would probably be considered a negative interview, and it probably should be documented.
And it wasn't in this case, was it?
I don't recall. I'm assuming it would have been put in the synopsis, and I don't recall whether there was an 11A done for it or not.
All right.
Say 11A.
Yep. Report.
All right, if you could turn back to page 4. At the bottom of page 4, would you agree that that is where it confirms to you that Mr. Stoltz is approving Cindy Blitzer's time and that you're going to need to go speak with him? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Isn't it true on the September 6th interview that I told you that Cindy Blitzer's day-to-day work was not done in Caswell in person?
Yes,
I
sir.
disclosed that to you, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that I told you that she would spend time in the Rockingham courthouse, but she had only been in Bradsher's office once in a while? Is that right?
That's correct.
Isn't it true that I disclosed to you that conversely, Henderson only goes to the Rockingham County Courthouse once in a while? Isn't that right?
That is true.
And your investigation did confirm, didn't it, that Mr. Henderson went to the Rockingham County Courthouse, got the Shockley file, had it transferred to him, was there for the plea? Is that correct?
I don't know about the plea, but the rest of the information, yes.
And you also interviewed Melinda Richardson, the administrative assistant of Rockingham County, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And without saying what she said, you also confirmed some of this information about Henderson going over to Rockingham County and who was approving his beacon over there.
Objection. Sustained.
Did you ask Ms. Richardson about Tyler Henderson's beacon being approved in Rockingham?
Yes.
All right. Did you ask Ms. Henderson about shared employee program or talent sharing?
I very well may have. I don't recall.
Okay. The talent sharing or shared employee program was mentioned to you by multiple sources in both counties, weren't they?
Yes, sir.
Sustained.
Okay. All right. In the next paragraph, page 5, do you have that
Yes,
in
sir.
front of you? Isn't it true that the next paragraph contains information where you asked me a series of questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. Isn't it true that you asked, for example, if Cindy Blitzer had been issued a vehicle? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So that's something that you could go and check mileage logs and things like that. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true I told you she had not been issued a vehicle to drive? Is that right?
That is true.
Okay. And isn't it true that you indicated Bradsher stated early on in January through August, the Person County District Attorney's Office did have a employee location name board? And that was in response to a question from you, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you were asking normal things that may be in an office.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true, like bigger districts use the Outlook system in terms of their scheduling and calendaring and things like that?
They very well may.
Okay. And you indicate in here that this was when she came in the office with regularity. And do you think that is anywhere in your notes, or do you think that is a paraphrase because there was a board with her name on it?
It's probably a paraphrase because it's what we talked about.
So it is your position and recollection that I said she came to the Person County office with regularity.
That is the only thing I can tell you is that is what I documented that we talked about.
Doesn't that seem inconsistent with what we just went over about her not coming to the Person and Casual office?
It does.
Okay. So in one part of your notes, you have that I told you she did not come to the Person and Casual office with regularity, like Tyler Henderson didn't go to Rockingham with regularity. And then on the next page, you say that I said, oh, she came to Person County with regularity.
It doesn't make sense, Mr. Bradsher.
Isn't it true? It makes sense because the notes got conflated, or this was a supposition of a typed statement that you took from notes however long after the interview. I mean, that's something you would have said to me if I said, in 1 minute, she doesn't come to Person and Casual with regularity, and then 5 minutes later I say, oh, she was coming to Person with regularity. Wouldn't you say, well, when did that start, or when did that stop? Wouldn't that make sense?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't follow your question.
Okay. This second statement about her coming to Person with regularity does not make sense. We can agree on that, can't we?
Mr. Bradsher, quite a bit of this doesn't make sense. I don't know how to answer that.
Do you recall me saying that?
I don't recall that. All I can tell you is that that is what I documented that we talked about.
All right. Could you give the jury just a general idea of what percentage of what I said that you actually put in this statement? Was it 50%, 75%?
Objection.
Sustain.
Can you quantify in any way? You've already said you're sure you did not put everything I said in the statement. Do you have any way to describe it more than that for the jury of what is left out from the statement?
I'll try to answer that. The interviews that we conduct, it is a summary of the pertinent information provided by the interviewee. The information is paraphrased, is put in the third person. That's about the best I can do, Mr. Bradsher.
All right. Following in that same paragraph, you write down that there were no emails to Cindy Blitzer and she was not issued a computer through the office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In response to a question, you asked me if I had emails or if she was given a computer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You put down here, Bradsher stated that there was a telephone assigned to her. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Isn't it true there was no cell phone issued to her? That was also in response to your question.
Yes, sir.
And do you see where it says, and now she did not have desk space? Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And did I explain that to you because she had an office in the Rockingham DA's office?
You very well may have. The next sentence that I have that I documented was that the space was allocated, the space that was allocated to her was given to someone else in August of 2015.
Do you know who that was?
No, sir, I don't.
Do you know where that was, whether it was Person County or Caswell County?
No, sir, I don't.
All right. Do you think your notes would give any illumination to that statement?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Your unit is headed up by Kay Perry, is that correct?
It was. Mr. Perry has left, taken a position with DPS.
All right. With regards to taking notes of an interview and following policy to let folks know that they're an index, subject indexed, these are all per policy with State Bureau of Investigation, is that right?
As I've said before, the policy of contacting the head of agency or an elected official who's under investigation, that probably is not written down in policy, but it was the policy of our unit and our office, and it's what my supervisor asked me to do.
And the supervisor at that time was who?
Kay Perry. For some of the time, he actually went to the National Academy for some of this investigation, and during that time frame, SAC Eric Hooks was the acting SAC.
Before I go back to the beginning of this investigation, I do need to ask you this question. The prosecutor asked you about this, whether Mr. Blitzer said that I said Debbie Holbrook was fired for talking to the SBI. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And you said to him that he did not tell you that. Is that right?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Mr. Blitzer did not tell you that I fired Ms. Holbrook for talking to the SBI.
Yes, he did not tell me that.
And in fact, I'd like for you to relate to the jury, the day after Ms. Holbrook was let go from her position, she in fact called you, didn't she?
I did receive a call from Deborah Holbrook.
All right. Now, Mr. Blitzer told you that I told him that Ms. Holbrook was let go because of the discovery issue. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And when Ms. Holbrook called you the day after she was let go, isn't it true that she told you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let me phrase it this way. She called you, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
And one of the issues that was discussed was why she believed she was fired.
Objection.
Overruled as to what she said, whether that was an issue that was discussed is,
Okay.
is allowed.
I'm sorry, can you ask me again?
Yes. When Ms. Holbrook called you, one of the issues that was discussed was why she was let go from Ms. Holbrook.
Yes.
Okay. Can't ask you the next question yet, but I'll just leave it there. Okay. But that isn't a statement in discovery, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Statement that Ms. Holbrook gave to you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, you started with Mr. Latour about when this investigation began, but isn't it true that it started before what has been testified to on direct?
I'm not sure how to answer that.
All right. Let me ask it this way. I'll withdraw
Okay.
that question. Your office is where?
My office is in Hickory now.
Okay. At the time, was it in Hickory?
My office was technically in Raleigh at that point.
Okay. So day to day, you would be in Hickory.
I would still be in the Hickory office day to day.
And can you tell the jury who would be the agents that would be in that office in Hickory as of December of 2015?
Wow. Um, so December of 2015.
So then about 7 months before you have discussed with Ms. Latour this investigation beginning.
Well, keep in mind, I had not worked for that district since about 2007. So
All right.
I'm not going to know everybody in that office.
All right, let me approach it this way then.
Okay.
You've told Mr. Latour you and ASAC Mays were initially on this case. Is that right?
Well, ASAC Mays was initially on the case, and I received the case from his office. And really, the only thing I believe we did where we would have actually been together was the meeting with Judge Osmond Smith.
All right, and that was July 18th of 2016.
I believe that's correct, yes.
All right, and you were here when ASAC Mays started us off this week. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. July 18th, 2016. Is ASAC Mays in the office with you in Hickory?
No, sir.
All right. Where is he?
He was stationed in the Greensboro office,
Okay.
the Northern Piedmont District.
And where was Agent Strader?
He is in that same office.
So Agent Strader and ASAC Mays would have been in the same office in Greensboro in December of 2015. Is that right?
I don't know Agent Strader well, but I'm pretty sure he was out of that office. Now, he may not have gone to the office every day, but that's where his supervisor would be and where his unit was housed.
Isn't it true that the initial complaint with regards to Cindy Blitzer, and perhaps, I'm not sure beyond that, let me just start with that, at least Cindy Blitzer getting a paycheck without working, was raised in December of 2015?
I know that it was before April of 16. I don't know the actual month. It very well could have been December 15, could have been January 16. I don't know.
Isn't it true that even in the last couple of months, there was an effort to try and interview other agents to figure out what happened during this time frame? Is that true?
There was.
You were part of that.
Yes, sir.
In fact, there was an effort on your part to talk to agent in the Capital District about any type of report being made. Is that right?
That's correct.
Which there was none. You were able to confirm.
Yes, sir.
But you did get a statement from Ben Strader, an agent, that indicated that he talked with Jason Ramey about this issue.
Sustain.
I'm sorry, I'll rephrase. There was a complaint received by the SBI as early as December 15th about this issue, wasn't it?
There was information received. Yes.
Okay.
I suppose it would be a complaint. Yes.
Okay. And the issue was, at least in part, the Cindy Blitzer working and getting, not working and getting a check?
Yes, sir. I believe that was the complaint. Yes.
All right. But even after your investigation, isn't it true there is no documentation or explanation as to what, if anything, the SBI did January, February, and March of 2016? Isn't that right?
That is correct.
Were you here when ASAC Mays testified?
Yes, sir. He
testified that his general rule is as soon as he gets assigned it, within 2 days, he's on it to determine if there's preliminary information to justify an investigation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
do you have any personal knowledge as to why this complaint would come in December 2015 and for 3 months, nothing happens?
Well, first of all, I still can't say December of 15 because I'm not aware of the time frame. And the second part of that, no, I have I don't know why.
All right. Who was the person in charge of that Greensboro office?
It was the other person that I spoke with, SAC Scott Williams.
Is he still the SAC in the Greensboro office?
He is.
All right. Do you know if, as a part of your investigation, that you have sought out an answer to that question from him?
I did.
Okay. And as a result of you talking with him, was there a report generated?
There was.
Okay. From SAC Williams?
From me.
From you?
Yes.
Okay.
A report of my interaction with SAC Williams.
Okay. And was there any other explanation for that delay to April 2nd based on your interaction with SAC Williams?
I'm not sure I can answer it the way you've asked it.
Okay, let me ask you this. As a part of that complaint about the Cindy Blitzer getting a check without working, isn't it true at that same time there was an allegation that Tyler Henderson was working for Craig Blitzer and getting paid full-time to go to law school?
I don't know specifically, but I can tell you that, to my knowledge, there were multiple complaints.
With regards to Tyler Henderson being alleged to be employed by Craig Blitzer and going full-time to law school, that was given at the same time as the Cindy Blitzer was getting a paycheck without working, wasn't it?
What time frame are you talking about? Are you still talking about the pre-April activity, or are you talking about the April activity?
Well, let's start with the pre-April activity. Did that allegation of Tyler Henderson being employed by Craig Blitzer and receiving a full-time paycheck for going to law school, that was an allegation, wasn't it?
I am not aware of any other issues other than the Cindy Blitzer issue.
Okay.
But there could be. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
not asking about any other issue, but I asked specifically about the Tyler Henderson allegation. Let me ask you this. In terms of April 2nd, 2016, you have reviewed ASAC May's report on that, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And isn't it true that on the April 2nd, there was an allegation against Tyler Henderson that he was employed by Craig Blitzer going full-time to law school and getting a paycheck for it,
I
wasn't it?
believe that was included, yes.
And ASAC Mays, in 2 days, determined that that was a lie, didn't he?
Yes, sir, I believe he did.
Okay.
Mr. Blitzer, Ms. Bradsher, we're going to recess for the weekend. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to recess until Monday. The rules are particularly important over the weekend. Don't talk about this case among yourselves or with anyone else, friends, family members, anyone else. All right, are there any matters that we need to take up before we recess?
No, Your Honor.
The only matter that I can think of is a matter that Mr. Bradsher raised earlier in the week about a stipulation as to Judge Stevens, because
yes.
I know that he had said that he needed to get back to Judge Stevens by Monday, I believe. I've
Turn this on for a moment. Your Honor, may I turn this on to pull up the email? Or should
Yes.
I? Okay. All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have considered that request for stipulation, and I believe it was a two-part stipulation. First part would be to stipulate to the information contained in Judge Stevens' email. The second, I believe, was a request for the state to stipulate about a portion of the plea transcript and its origins. I don't know that I'm in a position that I can stipulate to the second part of that, barring further information. because I wasn't a part of that, obviously, and I don't know what Judge Stevens would testify about that. So I don't want to be stipulating to something that would be inaccurate or in some way contradicted and stipulate to that going to the jury. As to the first part of it, the contents of the email, I do not stipulate that that information be given solely to the jury standing alone. What I would say is that if we are to include the unredacted version of that memo and attach the unredacted version of the email, then that would something that I would possibly be willing to stipulate to.
The unredacted, like the whole email?
The entire email and the entire, not your response to it, but Judge Stevens' entire email and the entire unredacted version of the memo that he created. I think that gives full context. To introduce one without the other would then negate my ability to elicit that information should he be called to testify, which I think at that point it would be fair game.
Mr. Bradsher.
I'm trying to understand. Are you saying the full memo or the full email or both?
Both.
Well, I can't agree to put Judge Stevens' whole email in it because part of that's personal talking to me about the subpoena. The text part that talks about having never spoken with anyone, not having any personal facts regarding these charges, meeting with the lawyers, and all of his knowledge is secondhand information, not competent as evidence. I have no idea what relevant testimony I can render. I mean, that's a part that I would agree to. I'll have to consider the other. I told Judge Stevens I'd give him an answer by Monday, so I will look at that language and I'll go back and look at the language in the memo and then contact the state by email, because I believe Your Honor's office and you were copied on email. Is that right?
I was
Yeah,
copied.
I've not seen it.
Right. But
Whether
went
my
to
office
the
was, I
office.
don't know.
Right.
That's
So-
it. I can approach with a copy if you want.
I'm not sure I need it now until you get to the point of
Right.
whether there's an agreement on a stipulation, then it becomes relevant to me.
I will look at that this weekend, Your Honor, report back to the court.
All right. And Mr. Bradsher, I have received, it didn't indicate it was copied to you, but I assume at some point it was, a draft order from the state bar relating.
I have reviewed it. I responded to them and said it was okay.
Oh, okay, good. And maybe that's what the email says, but I just want to make sure that you had seen that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good, then I will enter that probably Monday as well.
Okay.
All right, if there's nothing further, then we're in recess until Monday morning at 9:30.